People who neither discovered nor built this land have been led to believe that America is theirs and theirs alone.
Once again, calling out a specific race by name. What does this look like in a year or 5 years or 10 years? What kind of country do you live in? Well, a country at war with itself, race war.
That is Wednesday's monologue from Tucker Carlson, who decided to focus on Tiffany Cross of MSNBC. She rightly points out that America is not the sole property of white people. And through Tucker logic, that becomes Tiffany Cross wants to murder all white people. It gets even more explicitly racist, if that's possible, in this.
Look, a lot of folks in that Capitol insurrection, some of these folks were white women. What do you say about this wing of white women who have been radicalized and are enablers to this very dangerous domestic terrorism movement that we've seen increase quite rapidly?
So it's not just whites, it's white women. Their women are bad too. And women, of course, are the key to reproducing the white race, which is clearly a threat, as she says again and again, to you and your family. They're dangerous. They want to hurt you. Now, don't be fooled by the fact that Tiffany Cross can barely speak a coherent sentence. She was a communications major, apparently, according to the internet. That didn't work.
I don't know Tiffany Cross. I don't know her politics. I don't see what possible problem he could have had with her ability to articulate her own thoughts in that clip, except that you know exactly why he made that criticism. She is objectively right that many of the people in that crowd on January 6th were women. She's right in the broader point that white women have been throughout history active participants in upholding white supremacy, including white male patriarchy. That is simply indisputable. Tucker Carlson doesn't want you to focus on that reality, that indisputable reality. And so instead he turns it to talking about white women's need to perpetuate the white race. Why a cable news host is talking in that way might on its surface not make any sense. But if you maybe spent a couple of years spending time at Stormfront or on some of the darker parts of 4chan, you're probably familiar with that sort of language. Tucker Carlson and his writing team definitely are. And so now you don't need to go to those explicitly white supremacist websites to get your fill of absolutely horrific racism. You can just put on Fox News every single night and you'll hear the exact same sorts of monologues you used to have to go to a KKK rally for to hear. Now you just hear it on Tucker.
Yeah, I am gonna show you a couple of sleight of hands that he did that are really interesting, but I wanna go to Adrian first for a reaction.
Yes, John, as you had noted, the whole thought that Tiffany Cross can't formulate sentences, they love to do that to Black people, particularly this thought that we're not quote unquote articulate, also phrasing that I hate. But also noticing this whole thought that Black people are instigating a race war or planning for a race war. They're essentially trying to set this up in some way so that his viewers think that they need to strike first. And that's the dangerous part, because it's essentially a call to action of, are you gonna let this person do it first? Or are you going to go ahead and get the jump on them? And so I think this is Tucker Carlson trying to create a situation in which he can go ahead and really instigate some type of race war. And he's using Tiffany Cross's conversation on her show as the means by which to get it done.
Yeah, so two things. So first of all, before I even get into the breakdown of all this, editor's note is that I'm no fan of MSNBC. I'm literally banned from MSNBC. I think MSNBC is the graveyard of progressives. That they're the biggest progressive killers in all of cable news. So I got no love for them. Now let's be honest with you guys about what you actually saw there, okay? So Tiffany Cross said this wing of white women who have been radicalized. So she was specific, not all white women, this wing of white women who have been radicalized. Tucker Carlson came back and said, she said all white women. Now, the audience actually heard the clip, right? But when he frames it in a different way, it erases their memory of that. And they go, yes, she said all white women, she hates us all, right? So that's sleight of hand number one. Then he's claiming she's racist because she mentioned a race as part of a larger sentence, okay, right? And then he says, oh, she's supposedly in communications. But guys, you've seen clips. Here, first of all, look at Herschel Walker. Okay, the guy can't speak, right? So if he said about Herschel Walker, he's having issues speaking. I'd say, okay, you want to take it about a Democrat? No problem. There's a famous clip of Al Sharpton online, right? And he screwed up the prompter and it looks ridiculous. And if you go, ha, it looks like he can't speak, you say there's at least a plausible logical connection, right? I don't agree, he screwed up the prompter, but plausible, right? But you saw Tiffany Cross with your own eyes, you heard her with your own ears. What she said was perfectly coherent. There wasn't a hint of anything being wrong with what she said. But you know, as if they can speak. Oh, okay. Then the most important sleight of hand, although actually there's two giant ones. One is, you see how they're starting a race war? No, I don't. No, she didn't say anything about a race war. You said race war. She didn't say it at all. She didn't come close to saying it. She said she's worried about a wing that is radicalized, and then the radicalized wing comes out and goes, you see how she wants a race war? Let's get, the implied sentence after that is, let's give her one. Okay, so now the second one that's gigantic. And you see the sleight of hands right in front of you. You can even rewind and watch it, right? Tiffany Cross didn't say anything in that short segment that he played or in the longer segment, I watched it, anything about reproducing. But he said, oh, they're going after white women. Why? Because they're the ones that reproduce. And he said, that's why she's saying they're a threat to you over and over again. She never said they were a threat to you because they reproduce. You just made that up out of whole cloth. Reproduce, what the hell does that have to do with this conversation? Because he's trying to get you to think, oh no, now they don't want us to reproduce. They're trying to kill us all.
Yeah.
They're trying to get rid of us. This is the white replacement theory. And then he has plausible deniability. Not for you and me. We're smart enough to figure it out. To us, it's super obvious. He's got plausible deniability for people who want to believe him.
Yep.
So they go, oh, well, no. Technically, he didn't say that. Technically, he said she was starting the race war. I mean, we had to strike first because they were going to come and get our women and our mothers, but he didn't. Hey, and he didn't say white replacement theory. He just mentioned that the white women reproduce, and they won't be able to reproduce anymore because of Tiffany Cross. And then what were we supposed to do? We had to take action. Which side is violent? Which one isn't? You can go all day long about that one guy at the softball field. 2,000 other cases are all right wing, right? And then they keep saying Second Amendment, remember, they're coming for you. Don't let them come for you. No, this guy it's ironic because he mentions Rwanda later. This is Rwanda level propaganda. Yeah. Guys, the fascists aren't coming. They're right here, you just saw him. That was scary, massive demagoguery propaganda.
Yeah.
I'm super worried about it.
It's just telling your audience of millions of people they're coming for your white women.
I mean,
I'd love to know, is that this whole rhetoric, what we're describing, accusation in the mirror, where you're basically accusing the left of wanting to start a race war to do these terrible things that in fact, that the right actually wants to do, and kind of that goading thing, that was first identified as messaging used in the Rwandan genocide. So to hear that Tucker Carlson is referencing the Rwandan genocide and clearly using the same messaging, it's like they are not hiding the ball at all. They are studying the past and the history of people who murdered, slaughtered, and killed people and exterminated people as though they were not human beings. Yep. He knows what he's doing. He's reading the research and he is regurgitating the dialogue. So he is calling these minions home, so to speak, so that they end up doing his bidding. This is incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, and I'll just briefly, like, here's a hypothetical for you. Imagine if you found out that they did an internal review and Tiffany Cross, the producer that writes up her monologue every night, that types out the thing that she's gonna say. We find out that Tiffany Cross's producer has been for literally years living an alternate life online on the most racist, anti-white websites possible, calling people crackers and stuff like that for literally years. Imagine if we found out that. Imagine what Tucker would say about Tiffany Cross and her show and MSNBC, except that this is only kind of a hypothetical because that's what happened to Tucker Carlson. We found out that his producer who wrote his monologues was using the most explicit racist language online for literally years, amongst other misogyny and all anti-Semitism, all that stuff. And they fired him. Tucker Carlson went for a short bass fishing trip and then came back and you never heard anything about it again. And he gives explicitly racist monologues literally every single night. But again, it's Tiffany Cross that has some sort of problem.
Yeah, so I just want to be clear about one thing. We are not like them, ever, okay? So I want to be clear with our audience. Do not fall into any of their baiting. Don't strike first, okay? We don't, like he's a comic book villain at this point. It's unbelievable. I mean, as I watched it, I thought, oh, I get it now. Hitler would have never won without Goebbels. Because you have to get that third of the country that is in a mood to do anything and everything. And that's what he's doing every single night on the air. And so guys, we're in a super scary situation, but we don't strike first. That's not what we do. We don't act out. We don't do things that are physical or violent in any way, okay? If they do it, we have to uphold the law, okay? And you do it through a legal process. You don't get individual anti-violence. Number one, because it is immoral and wrong and unprogressive. And number two, because that's exactly what they want. Once things decay into vigilante violence, that's a right wing's dream come true. So do not ever go in that direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, if anything, call Snake Rocket.
Why'd you have to do that?
Okay, I love that. Damn it.